Welcome to Correctional Commentary, a podcast about the ins and outs of corrections, an uncensored view from behind the walls. Hosted by Robbie and Caleb.
Hello to everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of Correctional Commentary. We are your hosts, Caleb and Robbie. I'm Caleb. That's Robbie. On this particular episode, the good, the bad, and the ugly of corrections. For our Clint Eastwood fans, Outlaw Josie Wells. Great movie. Side note. Sorry.
Oh, good Lord, Caleb. But
Great
if y'all, so I mean, there's a going into this career. There's a lot of good, whole lot of bad.
Oh, good God,
and,
yeah. And I would definitely
unfortunately, it just comes with the territory.
Oh, yeah. And I would say the ugly. Robbie, we're going to start the ugly. There's a lot of ugly people, and I don't mean like heart-wise. I mean, there are some people fell out of damn ugly hit every branch on the way down, and somebody's waiting at the bottom and hit them with the ugly stick. I mean,
Yeah.
God, if ugly was a crime, that's what they'd be locked up for. I'm just telling you. And that's not talking about just the inmates, because I know I'm one of them. Hello. But, one of the definitely ugly things that I've noticed is the rapping. Good God.
Yeah.
Listen, I know I'm not a rap consumer. I like good old country music, but I still know a good rap song when I hear it, I think. But I have not heard a good one at all. The amount of aspiring rap stars in a correctional environment is blow your friggin' mind. That's one thing I want to say.
Yeah,
I've heard better rap from John Cena the wrestler back when he was in WWE than I've heard from some of these inmates. And he was a white boy.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just the harsh reality of this profession is, and the good and the bad can change on a dime.
Oh yeah, I mean literally like that.
Yeah, I mean that's why whenever we go into work in the morning, everybody say, "Hey, how you doing?" That's too early.
Yep, don't know how we're doing yet.
That is a very common saying whenever you go into work. Hey, how you doing this morning? That's too early to tell.
Fuck off! I ain't not even halfway through my day yet. Leave me alone.
Yeah,
my favorite phrase was when they'd ask me how you doing. Shut up! I've not had my coffee yet, so I ain't answering that. Not until I have my coffee
or energy drink.
That too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what do you want to start with, Caleb?
All jokes aside, I think let's just kind of start it from. I like bad news. I like the formula of bad news and good news first because you always end on a positive note. So let's start with the ugly, and let's work our way up from there. I think one of the ugly sides of corrections. I know one thing that always got me. I worked in visitation for a little while. One thing that always got me is, these guys, it's not a blanket statement, but there's a lot of inmates out there that are good people that just made some stupid decisions. Really freaking stupid. But what really would get me is you have these guys, I mean, they were respectful to the staff. They would always follow the rules, well, mostly always follow the rules. But you never really had to say a lot to them. And they were, respectful. What would really get me is that you have these guys come into visitation, and their families would come in, and their kids would come and see them. And at the end, these young kids, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, don't really understand what's happening. And I'll never forget in particular, and it broke my heart because I've got a soft spot for kids. They're so wonderful, and I believe they're truly God's greatest gift to humanity. Is they embody God's spirit, truthfully. And it always broke my heart in this particular case. The young kid, I want to say it was a little girl, might have been a little boy. I don't really necessarily remember that, but they were about 5 years old. Visitation for the day had ended, and they did not understand why their daddy couldn't go with them. Mm-hmm. And the kid was started bawling, and it gives me goosebumps to this day just thinking about it, because she, like, we almost had the parent, the mom, or the adult that was with them almost had just about had to pry the child off of their daddy, because they didn't understand, why can't daddy go home with me? Why can't I be with my daddy? And again, that was one of those guys that was, yeah, he was an inmate. He did a stupid decision. I mean, he wouldn't have been locked up otherwise, but it just like broke my heart. I would definitely say that's definitely an ugly part, especially if you're somebody like me that has a soft spot for kids, that wants to protect kids. That's one of the reasons I got into it, was to protect the innocent.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah,
and that can roll into a lot of places, as far as the, that's a big thing
yeah,
of these guys that are locked up. I mean, they're still people, but
yeah, they
then
are.
unfortunately we have a job that we have to do, and I would say sometimes, but most of the time our job and their antics and what they're trying to do collide drastically.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
if anybody that goes into this line of work, if you're religious, or if you have for like me, I have extremely high morals of, there's certain things I won't cross, point blank period. But if you know if you're in this line of work long enough, you're going to come across these guys to where they just got a phone call and their mother passed away, or their one of their parents, or even a kid.
and your
And
heart
that's one
breaks.
of the, yeah, I mean, it's, your heart breaks for them,
Mhm.
but you can't show it on how you normally would. And just so y'all guys know, this is my little sidekick. She's back with me again today. But that's just I guess it's a good and a bad side,
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
mean, a lot of these guys, even the other inmates that they're locked up with, they don't care about them.
no.
And
And that's the thing
that's
for our
you
listeners out there. You guys have probably seen in the movies where inmates can't cry, like in front of other inmates or anything, like, and that is true. You can't. You have to almost be right, Robbie. I don't know if I'm using the right term, so please feel free to correct me. Hard, like that cold external shell. You have to be that person all the time. And
Mhm,
COs, believe it or not, we get a little bit more leeway with that because we're not inmates. But even
mhm,
then, we still have to be very careful about what kind of compassion and empathy we show, because while we're showing it to this inmate who is going through, just had a life altering event on the street, we might have another inmate watching who might try to use that to their advantage and turn that against
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and that's why it's so important for you to have high morals,
us. Mm-hmm.
and because it's you're gonna come across those situations at some
Mm-hmm.
point blank period of of where you where you want to be able to help that guy, or even somewhat be there for him. Sorry about the interruption, guys. I had to fire my sidekick and kick her out. She was starting to be restless and had to go out. But we're gonna jump back on, like, to where these guys, they're still people, and they
Mm-hmm.
still go through the same things we do on the street. But it's just a little worse for them, because
Yeah.
they get told that, hey, your mom just died, but you can't go to the funeral.
Yeah. Because
And or if
imagine
they're lucky enough to get to go to the funeral, they're in cuffs, shackles,
they have an armed escort.
escorted.
Yeah.
I mean, I could honestly say, if I was in their situation, I wouldn't want to go to my mother's funeral like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It's a feeling that working in this line of work has definitely made it to where I would never want to put myself in that situation, and it opens your eyes up and it has made it to where I can like coach my nieces and nephews in
Mhm.
some of their life decisions
Mhm.
and explain to them a little more why why you don't want to be there.
Yeah. In fact, I can even add on to that. My niece, back when she was, she was a little bit younger than what she is now, she looked at me and said, "Uncle Caleb, I want to grow up be a corrections officer." And Robbie, I'm not gonna lie, and listeners out there, my niece is extremely smart. She's got so much potential. I'm not saying that just because I'm her uncle. She's an idiot. I'd call her an idiot, but she's not. She is just extremely intelligent, extremely talented, has a very bright future ahead of her. And when she said that, I just felt my heart drop. And I looked at her and I said, "Baby girl, whatever you do, well, that's an honorable profession. It is 100%. It's a great profession. You are too innocent. I don't want to see your innocence get taken away because you're going to see stuff that Uncle Caleb doesn't talk about, and I don't want that to happen to you."
Yeah, I mean that that flows into the stuff that we don't talk about.
Right,
Um, I
100%.
mean, I'm like with me and my wife, we're a little different.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm a firm believer in you either need to tell your spouse everything, or you need to tell them nothing.
and see, that's where
And
Robbie and I do differ. That's where you and I differ, Robbie. I don't. There is still some stuff that I don't tell that I've not told my wife that she is. As the years go by, and the more I get separated from that line of work, and then I'm able, because I am one of those people that deals with stuff at a later date. Just kind of puts it in my own psyche or my own heart to deal with it later. It's like I can't deal with it right now. I'm just not ready, and eventually it starts to seep out, and it might take 2 or 3 years. It might take 2 weeks, and there's a really determining factor. So there are some stuff that I have told my wife. There are some stuff that I have not. I think eventually I will. It's just not right now.
well, and I think some of the stuff that happens to us, we just get so desensitized to it
Oh yeah, 100%.
that, like, I don't like something that someone that doesn't work in this field would consider traumatic. I don't consider traumatic. I mean,
Yeah,
I've had incidents happen at work, and like with me, what I told you, what I told you that I share everything with my wife. But I mean, there's some stuff that that I tone down that she doesn't need to know the full gravity of the situation and how bad it was. But a lot of things happen that it's just a normal part of her day, and I
yeah.
don't think that it's like anything worth bringing up.
Hmm.
But we'll be in a conversation later on that day, and I'll I'll mention it, and she's like, "You never told me that," and I was like, "Didn't think it just wasn't something," and she thought it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But that's something to go to show you the stuff we deal with. It can affect our mental health drastically,
Hmm.
and it gives us it's a very high stress, high anxiety world that we live in,
And
and
that right
it
there is another reason why, and I will stress on this too, the importance of non-work related hobbies.
oh yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
for me, I love motorcycles. I love hunting, fishing. Um, I love the shooting sports, football, especially college, as you know. Hello, but and I love reading, and that's what gets my mind off of it and helps me deal with it productively. There's always unhealthy coping things, and I know several officers that have done that over the time. They've regretted it. That's the reason why I've always been strict to stick with my healthy stuff. Like the ones I
Yeah,
just listed. Robbie, I don't know about you.
it's
What are some of your hobbies? Even what are some of the things you do?
it's I mean it's very easy to go down that dark road and get into drinking, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of a lot of COs do it,
Oh
and
God, a lot of them do.
it's something that I did, on my earlier part of my career, and meeting my wife really helped pull me out of some of that stuff and got me onto some of the healthier stuff. Like I do a lot of I like to golf, bowl. We play a lot of board games,
Yep.
just stuff that keeps your head from having to wander too much.
And
I
because
mean, because
yeah,
it wreaks havoc on your perception of people.
yeah, and I mean it will. And the thing is too, in addition to that, if you don't have these healthy creative outlets, burnout becomes a serious, god awful thing to have to deal with. I mean, I know I dealt with. That's the reason I took my hiatus like I did years ago. The technically, I guess the only time. And I'm Robbie. I would assume the same thing happened to you when you took your hiatus. It was just the burnout. I mean, it was just overwhelming at times.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that they brag about, always being at work, and it's something that I've decided, that I'm doing is, I take a vacation every quarter,
Yeah.
whether, I'm on it right now. I mean, I'm taking at least a week, maybe two off. I
Hmm.
usually put in for it whenever I get it accepted. I'm going to take at least a week, then I'll take the second week if I need it.
Yeah.
But everyone gets so caught up, and I mean, we get enough. That's the thing. We get enough vacation time and
Yeah.
comp time. And for those people that don't know what comp time is, whenever we work holidays, most of you go into this line of work, you're going to work holidays,
Yeah. You better get used to it
and
now. That
and
is.
they give. Yeah, I mean, it's just that's another bad about it is once you sign up for this line of work, there is no, oh, I'm not going to work. We don't shut down for holidays.
It is not a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job by any means. I mean,
Yeah,
it is 24/7. You have to be there. They have to have people there,
yeah,
regardless of the weather, regardless of what's going on in your community. You got to be there, and there's just
yeah. I
no
mean,
other
I have spent let's see, the longest that I've spent at the facility was a little over 78 hours.
Damn.
Yeah, we had a bad ice storm, and they pulled out cots, and we slept up in the visitation gallery.
See, I never had that. I was always fortunate. I mean, I guess it was more stupidity on my own part. I was determined to make it home, regardless if just because I had to get out of there. But that was me. That's not to say Robbie's right and even I'm wrong. It's just it's our different mentalities. Because for me, I had to get out of there just to get a true break.
Yeah,
Um, and that's not a one size fits all. And that's not to say that I'm weak and Robbie's strong or vice versa. It's just a matter of fact, if you will.
yeah,
And I will say this, Robbie, because I know we want to talk about the good as well. Make sure we don't leave that out because you just brought it up. You kind of touched on it. The comp time, the vacation time, that is definitely a good thing about corrections and in law enforcement in general. You're going to have plenty of vacation time. I mean, it's next to impossible to run out unless you call out every day. I mean, you just about got to intentionally want to run it out.
oh, for sure. I mean, and it allows you to have a whole different type of financial freedom too,
Oh yeah.
because there is absolutely no shortage of money to be made.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, the only way you can not make money in this profession is by just being lazy and not want to work.
Yeah. Now,
I mean,
now
I know guys that they make officers,
mhm,
like as an officer with
entry
only a
level.
couple years in, they
Mhm.
make over $100,000 a year just because they work.
Well, and that now I will add to that though. There's that precarious balance, so to speak, because for me, I want a true work life balance, work home balance. I am very I love my family. I mean, I'll be honest with you, for the listeners. My wife is my best friend. I love that woman to death, and I want to be with her as much as I possibly can. Now, granted, she has
Hmm.
been with me for the entire time we've been together. I have done nothing but corrections, law enforcement, or security, some type of security work. I've been in the security field total of almost 8 years, and that part of the job doesn't change. Whether what I'm doing now with the federal government, we still got to have people there 24/7. The schedule doesn't necessarily. There's still a lot of hours required. It's just less stressful now compared to what I was in. But yeah, I don't want to work 7 days a week. I at one point in my life, I had 2 jobs, just trying to make extra money. But now I know at the time I had to do it, but I don't want to do it anymore. Is my point.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And that used to be one of the things about how this profession used to be. It
Mm-hmm.
used to be that's the only way that you can make, a good living is by working the overtime. But I
Yep.
mean, the raises that we've gotten, the ones that we're getting as
Yeah.
you move up, I mean, I'm just now starting to roll into that slot to where my paychecks are really good. I don't have to worry about working overtime.
The street kind
So, I
of
mean,
you.
you'll get there. I mean,
Oh yeah, but
the
it
time
takes
will
time.
come. Yeah, I mean, the time will come. That's why, it's so important to have a good support system. I would say,
Oh
probably
God,
say is the best thing.
yes, and I will even say I did not get close with a lot of my coworkers, but just a very select few. Robbie was one of the ones that obviously I got very very close to, and I'm very thankful for that relationship. But and this is kind of one of the ugly sides as well. We talked about the ugly side as far as inmates go. In my career, I was stabbed in the back by people wearing the same uniform as me that I thought I could trust, and didn't find
Mhm.
out until it was too late. So I took that, and it's probably wrong to do, but this I took it as okay. I can trust anybody. I got to be very selective of who I trust and who I interact with outside of work, and I became very very selective. And that is kind of that bad side because at the end of the day, like Robbie and I talked about in past episodes, the politics that come along with our profession, you don't truly know 100% initially. This guy you think you can trust, you think that okay, he's gonna have my back. Yeah, he's probably gonna have your back inside the wire as far as you get into a fight, obviously assistance call, yeah. But he's also he or she may or may not be looking for your first screw up, so they can turn you in and make themselves look better. Not to say it happens all the
Absolutely.
time, but it definitely does happen, and that is the bad, if not ugly, side as well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I think it's important to because not all officers are so me for example.
Right,
I am a completely different person inside of work than I am outside of it.
100%. I can even
And
attest to that.
a lot of officers, it's you have to be real meticulous about how you act. You either need to be yourself outside and inside of work, or you have to be really good at acting a certain way.
Yeah.
And
In
I
fact,
I am very inside of whenever I walk through the walls, my mindset changes instantly.
yeah. Oh yeah,
And
100%.
I mean, my mindset and the way that I act, the way that I talk,
Hmm.
and you probably heard people talk about me that he's an asshole. I mean, whenever I'm at work, I am.
Yeah, and I mean, I
I'm an
had the same
asshole to
thing.
just about everybody. So
But
that
one thing
rolls
about
back
Robbie is
around.
he was consistent.
Yeah, but I mean, but that rolls back around to me and you of
Yeah.
how that's why I think it's important to get with some of your coworkers outside of work
Hmm.
because with me, if you didn't know me outside of work, no one would want to associate with me
Oh, 100%.
just
Nobody.
because I mean and maybe it's different with some people because some people may realize that, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah. Hell
And
yeah. Well, I'll even tell the listeners about Robbie. When I first met him, I remember because Robbie, it was like
oh,
him and I just it's like we had this weird unspoken connection almost immediately. And it's like I could tell he was an asshole, but me, I'm an asshole as well. And I like that kind of because you know what you get. the assholes like the Robbie and I were and kind of still are. We're straight shooters. We shoot from the hip. We're not going to lie to you. We're going to tell you exactly what's on our mind. You don't have to worry about that and the deceit there. And I feel like that's one of the things that kind of drew me to Robbie. And, we hit it off pretty instantly. And I mean, Robbie, correct me if I'm wrong on that. And we've been good friends now for, gosh, how many years? 3, 4, 5 years, something like, I mean, good God, how long has it been?
Something like that.
Yeah. And, we all four, our wives and us, we all get together pretty regularly, and it's always a good time. But what I see the side of Robbie, it is probably, I would definitely guarantee that it is completely different than what his coworkers see. And Robbie can even say the same thing about me. What he sees in me outside of work is completely different than who I was behind the wire, behind the fence.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say, you from just, and I can only speak for what people have told me about how I act differently, but I don't think it's as drastic with you as with people say it is with me. I mean, because I am night and day from how I carry myself.
Yeah.
Because me personally, whenever I leave, I try to take my uniform off. The last thing I want to do is be in control.
Yep. And I can even touch to that. Like that makes me want to talk about too. You have to leave work at work and at home be at home. So like Robbie was talking about, like taking his uniform shirt off, not wanting to be in control. For me, I had a similar trick, and when I was an FTO, I would tell my trainees the same thing to develop their own mental trick. Mine was, when I got home, I took off my uniform shirt and I took off my boots. That
That
was
was the
my
first
brain.
thing.
That was my brain saying, okay, I'm done. I can be me.
I
I can be Caleb at this point.
I wouldn't even, and it even now, I've gotten to the point to where about the only thing I'll do whenever I get home before I take my uniform off is say hi to my wife.
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't give her a kiss saying her hi. I don't. The first thing I do is I take off every piece of clothes that I worked, and I change.
Yep.
And
100%.
that helps me, that helps shift my mindset of hey, I'm not a controlling person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of switch out of that asshole state of mind.
Yeah.
And even then I still get reminded, unfortunately, this is something that I think everybody runs into from time to time. With If you're married,
Okay, I know where you're going with
they'll
this.
look at you and tell you, hey, I'm not an inmate. Quit talking to me like that.
Yeah. And I can even, another funny story, because you know me, I've always got a good funny story. When I was in the sheriff's office, it was high stress at the time. I mean, it was balls to the wall, just being straight up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, I come home, and this was before my wife and I were married yet, but we were still together. And one of my dogs decided it would be a good idea to piss in the house right in front of me. And I just got off a long ass shift. I mean, it was just one of those nights. And without thinking, because I hadn't truly separated myself yet, I looked at the dog and told him that I was going to lock him down for 30 days. He was going to go to the hole for 30 days. My wife, being the patient, loving, no nonsense kind of woman, looked at me and said, "What did you just say to the dog?" And I said, "I'm going to lock his ass down for 30 days. Dadgummit, he pissed in the house. Fuck him. I'm going to put his ass up, lock his ass down." And she said, "Caleb, stop. Think about what you just said. You are not at work." And my wife has this way of pulling me out of it with simple phrases like that. It's one of the reasons I married her, because she needs to be made a saint in history, because dadgummit, that woman is. And I realized in that moment, I was like, oh, crap. I just told the dog I'm going to lock him down for 30 days for pissing in the house. Like, oh, shit. Okay, wait a minute. And it brought me out of that. But, I mean, that happens. Even to the best of us, the worst of us, whatever, it's going to happen. And that is the reason why I like to touch on what Robbie said, to have that great support network that can kind of call you out on it respectfully and support you and be there and still
Yeah.
love you through it almost.
Yeah. But I mean, but this whole thing is, and I know we've been on more negative than we have positive, but
We
I
need to shift to the
mean,
positive. Definitely. We need
yeah,
to definitely
I
talk about
mean,
that.
yeah, I've been in a lot of situations to where it brings me my spiritual peace
Mm-hmm.
of being able, and I think that's a big one for me,
Yeah.
is me and my personal, is I want to make a difference and I want to leave a footprint on with as
Mm-hmm.
many people as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these inmates that we deal with, we're the first, I
And the
guess,
last.
positive role models
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of these younger kids have.
Yeah.
And you know, I'll never forget the times to where, you know, I've ran into an inmate overdosed
Mm-hmm.
and given him Narcan, and I'll never forget the moment whenever I seen them a week later when they got released from the infirmary, you know, coming up and saying thank you for saving my life.
Yeah.
And that's
And that
just that's one of the,
unspoken benefit out of the
yeah,
system.
I mean it's something that, you know, not everybody gets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've cut people down from trying to hang themselves,
Yep.
and it's it's a bad, but it's also a really good thing.
Yeah.
It
It's
brings, and the
like a thankful
conversations.
reward.
Yeah, I mean, the conversations that you get to have with these inmates can be
Mm-hmm.
extremely positive and extremely beneficial. You know, this job's going to be what you make of it.
And I agree
And
100%, definitely. And that's one thing about correct. You will have the opportunity if you use this perspective, because I know I used it and it helped me. It's an opportunity to be able to talk to 1,000 different people from 1,000 different walks of life that were
mhm,
probably maybe one out of that 1,000, hypothetically speaking, was similar to yours, but it wasn't exactly like yours. And you learn how to talk to these people. You learn how to communicate. You learn how to bridge the gap, because these inmates see you as a CO, as an authority figure, like, oh man, they're just like police, and they're going to treat me bad, and da 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 da. And one of the things that I loved is I would have inmates that would have a bad interaction with either one of my colleagues or a former corrections officer in prior, and they would expect, like, I'd have to go correct them for something minor, but my thing was trying to get ahead of the curve before it turned into something major. And I would talk to them like human beings, and they would be kind of shocked, like, wait a minute, you're not going to cuss me? Or, you're not going to do this and that. It's like, no, why would I do that, man? Like, you have to, my rule of thumb was with inmates, interacting with inmates, they had to earn my disrespect. I would go out of my
absolutely.
way to treat them equally like human beings. But as soon as they crossed that line, it was over. Now, the caveat to that rule was if that happened today and I had to come back in tomorrow, it's over. Like, it's done. Whatever happens in that shift. I go home, I forget about it. It's just business. It is nothing personal. And
Yeah.
these COs, these new COs that are listening, the ones that are thinking about this field, even the old heads, I highly encourage to remember that. If you take one thing away from this show, it's just business. It's nothing personal. Um, you know, for me, what drives that for me is if I put myself into that inmate's shoes, how would I want to be treated as an inmate by a correctional officer or somebody that had authority like that over me? And it's always with respect and with dignity and humanity.
Mhm.
For me and Robbie, I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about this, but I definitely do. I am, the listeners out there, I'm a Christian through and through. I'm a man after Jesus Christ's own heart, God's own heart. I love God. And I want inmates to see, I want everybody to see that. I know I cuss and I know I don't act 100% like it, but my actions are genuine. And I I want my actions to speak for me and let
Yeah.
God speak through me. And one of the things that I love too is I've got I'll show it on camera if I can. I've got a tattoo, my only tattoo that says Jesus saves. And inmates, and I got to watch a lot of times when inmates would see that tattoo, they would almost like I get to watch them like okay, they would breathe a breath of relaxation. Like okay, wait a minute, because that they know what that cross means. They know what those words mean. Okay, he's a Christian. He's gonna he's gonna be kinder. But I'm also not afraid. I was also never afraid to break my foot off in their hind ends if need be, and they knew that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, I'm not either. I mean, I'm a very religious person, and I think that's part of the reason what brought me and you closer together,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also one of the things that has pulled me back to corrections because I felt because the lifelong or the old tale of make plans and God will laugh and just send you on the direction you're supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like this line of work is where God put me and where God
Mm-hmm.
wants me, and it's
Yeah.
where I will continue to be until I feel like He has changed my direction of where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. And that right there's one of the
And
reasons I left because I feel like God led me out. He gave me a once in a million, once in a lifetime opportunity. And I feel like that if he didn't want me to leave corrections, he wouldn't have given me such an opportunity.
yeah, yeah, I mean that is a huge good for me is the amount of spiritual peace that this job brings to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it brings some bad mental health stuff, but it brings a tremendous amount of spiritual peace to me of some of these guys that are incarcerated that you can go up to them and say and one thing that you can go up to them and say is, hey, if you're going through a hard time, I'll pray for you.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with
And
that.
I won't ever let any work that I'm at t- tell me that I can't pray for someone, and hope
Yeah.
hope the best for somebody.
Right. 100%.
And that's
100%.
what a lot of these officers get, I guess,
Yeah.
filled with themselves. They feel like, that they can't, but
Yeah.
that's something that brings me a tremendous amount of peace
Mhm.
and fulfillment.
Yeah.
Is
I agree.
I've sat with a kid that lost his parent, and I just yeah, you can't sit there and you can't hold your hand on them and you can't pray, but I
Right.
mean, but I'll tell him. I'll be like, hey, I said, I'll be praying for you,
Mm-hmm.
and and me as a follower of Christ, I if I tell somebody that, it will happen,
Yeah.
and
Most definitely.
I find myself praying for some of these guys throughout the day, every day.
Yeah.
Praying for them, praying for my coworkers, but that's something that helps ground me.
Mm-hmm.
That even in these dark places, you can find the light and you can find the goodness of people,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of these inmates, there's good in all of them. You just have to find it.
Right. And that brings up the philosophical question though, too. What is good? Define good. For Robbie and I, for our listeners out there, our definition of good is what Christ says it is. Now, we obviously believe that is the truth, that is the one way, that is the light. But Robbie and I definitely speak for the both of us when I say this. If you don't follow our belief system, we don't hold it against you. We don't treat you
Oh,
any differently.
I
Now,
mean,
that's not
I
going to
I
stop us from
love
praying for you and loving you, but we don't.
yeah, I mean, I love the conversation. The some of the best conversations that I've had working inside a prison is speaking with people of Muslim, of other religions,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I'm gonna love you regardless of whatever religion you are.
Yeah.
You're still you're still a child of God, whether you believe you are or not. That's just my belief.
Right.
It's what I'll take to the grave believing.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
and I think that gives you I mean, and that will give you a lot of respect with those inmates too,
Mhm.
of being able to not be one sided. You know, you're wrong, I'm right.
Be flexible within reason. That what I would heavily advise that. Be flexible, but within reason. Don't be flexible about policy necessarily, but don't be afraid to admit wrongdoing at the same time
Oh
on your
yeah,
own part. You
yeah,
know.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, because that's going to be what sets you apart from other
Mhm.
inmates apart, or from other inmates and officers,
100%.
is admitting you're wrong and even apologizing to these inmates.
Don't be afraid to do
But
it.
yeah, I mean, we're all human.
We are
We,
all
you know,
fallible.
us officers, we are one mistake away from ending up where these inmates are.
I used to tell inmates all the time, the only thing that separates me from you guys is y'all got caught and I didn't. I quit before I could get caught. I mean, that's really
Mhm.
it. I should be locked up just as much as you guys were, but I quit before I could get caught.
Yeah,
So,
but I think we should probably start trying to wrap it up there. I mean,
yeah, let's do it.
we've been at it for a little bit. I think we hit a lot of really good stuff.
Yep.
And again, everybody, if y'all are struggling with some stuff and you know you're struggling with your mental health, reach out to me, reach out to Caleb. If you're struggling with your faith and being in this line of work has made you question stuff, reach out to us. We'll talk to you.
Yep.
My door and my heart's always open to everybody.
I'm the same way, guys. Don't ever hesitate. We'll make sure we get some kind of way direct line to us on posted on one of these platforms. Our producer will be
Mhm.
handling that. God love her. She's awesome. I'll give her a shout out. She's freaking amazing. And she's doing all this work for free. So God love her for that too. And she has to put up with Robbie and I.
Yeah, absolutely. But until next time, guys, we'll see you.
See you guys.